this afternoon?
No, yeah, thanks.
Okay, yeah. So first speaker in this session is Abu Sufyan. He's an integrated PhD student in our department. He's working with, so he's working with Professor Nandakumaran. He gave recently his thesis colloquium. I think he's in the process of submitting or maybe submitted. So today he's going to talk on the strong contrasting diffusivity in the general oscillating domains, basically, so homogenization of optimal control. I welcome Abu.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Speak on this.
First of all, I am very thankful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. So in this talk, I'll be talking about homogenization of a variational form and its associated optimal control problems, where the variational form is having a very high contrasting diffusivity coefficients. So this is joint work with my advisor, Professor Nandakumaran. So first, I'll begin with what you mean by homogenization on oscillating domain. So when you say oscillating domain, so it means it has two parts. One is fixed part, one is oscillating part. This oscillating parts depends on the parameter epsilon. When epsilon becomes smaller, the number of these kind of shapes become increasing like order of 1 by epsilon, and the width of the pillar or the cell is become smaller and smaller. For example, like epsilon is equal to 1 by 5, we can see the number of this self-similar pillar is 5, and when epsilon is equal to 1 by 10, the number of pillar is become 10, and its width become like order of epsilon. When epsilon is equal to 1 by 50, it look like this. When epsilon is equal to 1 by 100, it look like this. So when epsilon becomes smaller and smaller, we can see that this shape going to cover a full upper rectangular region like this. So what you do, so for each epsilon level, we have a problem here in this kind of domain, which depends on the parameter epsilon. So it may be heat equation, OB equation, or control problem, or controllability. It's this kind of problem. So what you do, for each epsilon level, we have a problem. We try to give a approximation problem on a full rectangular region, like full domain, when epsilon becomes smaller, by a problem where we doesn't see the oscillations. So basically, we try to give a homogenized problem when epsilon is become very, very small. So in this current presentation, what I'll do, we'll see a different type of problem, which I call it high contrasting diffusivity problem. So here, what you do, this pillar is going to have sort of made of two different material having like sort of opposite type behavior. Like for this presentation purpose, I can call it like some portion of this pillar has very high conductivity and some portion is very low conductivity. So suppose someone wants to study heat equation on this kind of domain. So while modeling, the conductivity tensor matrix is going to have the coefficient of the matrix has drastic difference in the magnitude, like depending on the where we are going to see, where we are looking at. So on this domain, we're basically going to consider first a variational form, and later we're going to see a optimal control problem, and we will homogenize these two problems. So this partial differential equation with strong contrasting diffusivity appears in several contexts, like in double porosity model, or while computing the effective conductivity of a material which is made of very soft and another is very hard material, or like computing the effective conductivity of a composite, one is very high conductive, one is very low conductive, like that. So just to make a pictorial purpose, just you can see here, suppose we have a periodic composite material like this. So what we have reference cell, which has two parts. One is red, which is very high conductive, and inside we have embedded yellow part, which is very low conductive. And we have made a periodic composite like this. So when epsilon is very small, we try to see that the domain or the material will look like this. So we try to compose the effective properties of material like this. So it is equivalent to study, for example, like a steady-state heat equation, like homogenization of a steady-state heat equation on this kind of domain, and try to pass to the limit epsilon tends to 0 on the steady-state heat equation, and try to see what will be the effective conductivity tensor when epsilon tends to 0. That tensor going to sort of determine the effective properties of this material. So while model steady-state heat conduction equation on this kind of domain, we'll see the magnitude of the coefficient matrix going to be like order of 1 on the red part, and it will be like order of epsilon on the yellow part. So there is a drastic like difference in the magnitude of the coefficient depending on like red part or yellow part. So that's why it is needed to study like PD with high contrasting diffusivity coefficients. So There are several mathematicians who have worked on this direction. Some of them are Panashenko, Bacalov, Kosharev, Bulinde, Bushite, and so on. Recently, Professor Ekananda Kumaran and Alisili have done work on this kind of domain, and they have homogenized a hyperbolic equation and on this kind of domain. One of the most closely related to our work was done in 2015 by Guardiola and Alisili. What they have done, they have considered a pillar type oscillating domain where the reference pillar is made of two different material, where the pillar has like inner core, which is very high conductive, and it is surrounded by a insulating type material. And for example, here you can see for epsilon is 1/6, the domain is look like this. On this kind of domain, they have considered a steady state elliptic variational problem, and they have homogenized that variational problem. So because of this pillar type shape, they have applied the method of two-square convergence very easily, and they have succeeded to do homogenization on this kind of domain by this method of two-square convergence. So in this page, in our work, what we have done, we have basically allowed that reference shell can be any sort of shape as long as it satisfies certain condition in x1 direction. So if we allow the general shape of the reference cell, we cannot easily apply the method of two-square convergence, and there we're going to use a modified definition of unfolding operator that has been introduced by the Sorensky and et al. And it has been again modified by our group. And in this presentation, we're going to use the modified definition of unfolding operator, which has been introduced by our group. So what we are basically allowing, our reference cell can take any sort of cell. Okay, these are just a typical reference cell that one can consider. So what we are assuming, we are going to impose condition on the cross section of this reference cell. So what we do for just simpler presentation, suppose we have a reference cell lambda. This lambda, we are assuming that it has two parts. One is conductive part, one is insulating part. So this right hand side is conducting part, and this is insulating part. So we're going to impose condition on the conductive part. That is for each x2 level, we have a line, and the projection of this line over x1 plane, I call it yx2, and the projection of this line corresponding to conductive part, I call it ycx2, and projection corresponding to insulating part, I call it yix2. So we're going to impose the condition that this measure of ycx2 for each x2, it is strictly positive, and there exists some delta which is positive, such that measure of, that is one-dimensional living measure of ycx2 is strictly positive. Okay, and we're going to consider the oscillating domain using this reference cell. So for example, if epsilon is equal to 1/6, we're going to have this oscillating domain. So for epsilon is 1/6, we have first of all, this omega minus is always fixed, and for each epsilon, we scale down our reference cell in x1 direction, and we'll put it periodically over this omega minus. So we have like this sort of shape. So union of all such insulating region, I call it I epsilon. Union of all such conductive region, I call it C epsilon. And the interface of this omega epsilon plus omega minus, I call it gamma. Yeah. So to write this domain mathematically, so for each epsilon is equal by m, where m belongs to z plus. So this is the sequence epsilon which will converge to 0. I just take a particular type of sequence like 1 by m. It is not actually necessary. One can take any sequence which converges to 0. And for that case, we just need little modification in analysis. So for time being, we'll consider epsilon is like 1 by m for m belongs to z plus. So for each epsilon is equal to 1 by m, we have the conductive part of the oscillating domain C epsilon by this, where this ycx2 I just presented in the reference cell. Similarly, we can write I epsilon is the disjoint union of this such set, where yix is the projection corresponding to insulating part. And omega epsilon plus is the union of insulating part and the conductive part. And omega minus is the lower fixed part, which is 0, 1 cross 0, minus 1. And the full oscillating domain is the union of omega epsilon plus and omega minus. Now, when epsilon tends to 0, the omega epsilon plus cover sort of a full rectangular domain, which is going to, I call it omega plus, which is 0, 1 cross 0. 0, 1. And the limit domain, when epsilon tends to 0, which is the union of omega plus and omega minus. And the interface between omega plus and omega minus is I denoted by gamma, which is x1, 0, such that x1 belongs to 0 to 1. On this domain, first we're going to pose a variational form, and that variational form is basically elliptic variational form, so which is defined in this way. So find U epsilon belongs to H1 omega epsilon such that it satisfies this variational equality where F belongs to L2 omega. Now, if you can see the coefficient corresponding to this Laplacian part, it is 1 in lower part and the conductive part, and it is epsilon square on the insulating part. Now, because there is a drastic difference in the magnitude of the coefficient, like here it is 1, here it is epsilon square, that's why I call it strong contrasting diffusivity coefficient. So first of all, for each epsilon level, this is a very nice problem, like it's elliptic, uniform elliptic problem. So by Lax-Ingrid-Granois, it will give the existence and uniqueness of the solution in epsilon. But the main issue is that we're not going to have uniform bound, because we know the uniform bound is inversely proportional to the F constant. So because we do not have the uniform gradient bound over the insulating part, so we do not have the uniform H1 bound over E epsilon on the full domain. So we have bound only on the conductive region and the lower part. So we have to very carefully take care of this part, the conductive part, to get that proper contribution. Yeah. So our aim is to basically first analyze what will be the asymptotic behavior of this problem. Like when epsilon is to 0, where this variational form will converge, and if it is converged to some variational form, what exactly, in what sense it is converging to that variational form. So to analyze this problem, we're going to use the method of unfolding operator. So first of all, if you notice that for each epsilon level, our domain is varying. So basically, to analyze the asymptotic behavior of the solution sequence, we always have to go to the like some fixed domain. So this unfolding operator that we're going to use, it will take a function omega epsilon plus to a function omega u, and that omega is a fixed set or fixed domain. So where we can do our analysis things easily. And again, you have to come back, and that comebacking thing we always call as scale separation. Like we have worked on a one-dimensional higher, but again, we have to come our working space again. So in sometimes we are able to success to come back again, in sometimes we are not able to success. So if we are able to success to come back our working space, we call it like fully scale separated system. So in this presentation, we'll see in like when we apply control on the conductive region, we'll be able to come back, but when we apply control on the insulating region, we'll not able to come back fully. So for each epsilon level, the unfolded domain corresponding to omega epsilon plus is denoted by omega u. It's a collection of all x1, x2, y1, such that x1, x2 belongs to omega plus and y1 belongs to yx2. And omega c is the unfolded domain corresponding to the conductive part. So for this case, y1 belongs to ycx2. And this is the definition of unfolding operator. So what it does, basically it takes a real valued function which is defined on the varying domain, that is omega epsilon plus, to a domain which is fixed, that is omega u. And it is defined as t epsilon of u x1, x2, y1, where x1, x2, y1 belongs to omega u. And it is defined as u of epsilon times integral part of x1 epsilon plus epsilon times y1 comma x2. So by this definition, this part basically belongs to omega epsilon plus. And that's why it is basically perfectly well defined. So this is the modified definition of the unfolding operator that has been defined by our group, because earlier it was restricted to a reference cell, which is sort of the boundary given by a fixed graph of a function, but here we are allowing any sort of cell. So using this unfolding operator, we'll homogenize the problem, but because of time constraint, I'm not going to show all the results. So what we have done, we will see the limit problem in the domain like this, because we have shown that when epsilon tends to 0, our limit problem will be posed on the full domain, and the limit problem on the upper part and limit problem on the lower part, it will be connected by the interface condition on the gamma. So what we'll show, first I'll write the limit problem, and then I will show how this limit problem and the epsilon state variational problem are related. So to write the limit problem, I need some function space setting. So for any function phi defined on omega, sometimes I write like, not sometimes, like throughout I write phi as phi plus comma phi minus, where phi plus is the restriction of phi over omega plus and phi minus over omega minus. So we define the limit solution space H omega. It is a collection of all phi such that phi plus belongs to L201, H101, and phi minus belongs to H1 omega minus, and phi plus and phi minus are agree on the interface, as it in the sense of trace. And it is a Hilbert space with respect to this norm. Similarly, for each x2 belongs to 0 to 1, to write the limit problem, we need to introduce cell problem, and the solution of the cell problem is lies in this function space. So for each x2, we define Vx2, which is the collection of all W belongs to H1 Yx2. So that W is 0, 1, Yc in Ycx2. And this this Vx2 is a Hilbert space with respect to this one. Again, we need a extended Sobolev space. Like we are working on 2 dimensions, but for the unfolded domain, we need another Sobolev space d omega. Is a collection of all psi belongs to L2 omega u, such that psi is 0 in the conductive unfolded domain, and its y1 derivative belongs to L2 omega u. And this is again Hilbert space with respect to this one. So now we're in state to write the limit variational form. So the limit variational form can be written in this way. So we have to find u is equal to u plus comma u minus h omega such that it satisfies this equation. So basically what we are asserting that if you pass to the limit epsilon tends to 0 in the epsilon stage variational form that we have considered in the beginning, it will look like this in certain sense. That sense we have to justify, and I will give it as a theorem. So first of all, we can see here that there is no x1 derivative because our domain has oscillation in x1 direction. The derivative with respect to x1 has been averaged out, and the contribution corresponding to the conductive part has been captured by this part, which is measure of Ycx2. This is a measure of the set Ycx2, and the contribution corresponding to conductive plus insulating part has been captured in this function alpha x in the both side. And this alpha x is defined by this expression where this chi is coming from the cell problem. So where chi satisfies this following cell problem. So first of all, because we have assumed the condition that Ycx2 has a strictly positive measure. So if we are somehow able to show that this alpha x is also strictly positive, so by the norm that we have, the norm in which this h omega is Hilbert space, on that norm, we can in a product we can see this is a perfectly well-defined elliptic variational form. And if it is positive, then this variational form has a good solution that can be guaranteed by Lassonde-Graham lemma. So first, one of the main job is to show this alpha x is positive. So for that, what you can use in the cell problem, if you take W is equal to xi, we'll get this integral, this equality. Now this part is positive, and apply Henderson equality on this region. Now because this xi belongs to Vx2, and this Vx2 has a property that xi is 0 on Ycx2. So that's why we get this inequality. Now consider this one. We'll get this one minus apply Henderson equality this side, and use this inequality. We'll get Yx2 minus Yix2. Now Yx2 is a disjoint union of Yix2 and Ycx2, and that tells you that this is nothing but the measure of Ycx2, and that we have assumed that Ycx2 has a strictly positive measure, like it is bigger than some delta, where delta is positive. So this variational problem has a unique solution. Now we have to justify exactly how this epsilon stage variational form and this form is related. So it has been given by this theorem. So for each epsilon stage problem, suppose E epsilon is the solution to the epsilon stage variational form, and u is equal to u plus comma u minus is a solution to the limit variational form that I have shown in the previous slide. Then it satisfies this following convergence. Like U epsilon minus weakly converges to U minus in H omega minus. U epsilon plus tilde weakly converges to this, plus this term coming from the insulating region, and this xi was a cell problem that I have defined. And the x1 derivative of U epsilon plus on the conductive region weakly converges to 0. And x2 derivative of U epsilon plus in the conductive region, it will converge to measure of Ycx2 times del U plus del x2. And the insulating part, the whole thing coming from the insulating region is captured by this sequence, and the x2 derivative of epsilon plus in the insulating region, it is converges to 0. So these things happening weakly in L2 omega plus. So this is the main theorem of this portion. So this is how basically we have shown that our epsilon stage problem is converges to some another problem which there is no oscillation on the boundary, and this problem and that problem is related by this convergence. And there is some characterization also, like we can prove this convergence also is strong, at least in L2 sense. Okay. Now I'm going to move on to the second part. So in second part, what we'll do, we'll try to first we'll apply control on the conductive region, then I'll put control on the insulating region. So when you apply control on the conductive region, so this is the standard L2 cost function. We are taking control from the conductive region for each epsilon. Our control set is theta C epsilon. and control is applied on the interior. So the directional form is exactly as it is in the beginning, but we have extra term because of this conductive part. Now, our aim is to like find d epsilon bar, theta epsilon bar belongs to each omega epsilon cross h epsilon such that this holds. Now, because of the ellipticity and the convexity of the cost functional, this directional form has a control problem has a unique solution, and our aim is to analyze what will be the limit control problem. Like how can we write this one epsilon tends to 0? What will be the corresponding limit control problem to the like it should be defined on the full domain omega, both omega plus and omega minus. So to analyze asymptotic behavior, we're going to use the characterization of the optimal control theta epsilon bar, and this characterization can be done by this function. So the adjoint state corresponding to the state equation can be given by this, and using this v epsilon bar, and basically here u epsilon bar is the optimal state and ud is the desired state. So using this adjoint state, we can characterize our optimal control theta epsilon bar like this. So for each epsilon stage, our theta epsilon bar can be given by the restriction of v epsilon bar over the conductive part. Now here you can see from this equation itself that there is no epsilon multiplication over the conductive part. So that means v epsilon bar is like v epsilon bar has sort of full h1 bound on the conductive part. And in homogenization, we have know that if you have something has h1 bound, so its L2 limit doesn't capture the microscale part. So there is no y1 dependency, and if we apply unfolding on this kind of to analyze this asymptotic behavior of this kind of problem, we'll work on omega u, but we can again come back to our working space fully. So that we call like fully scale separated system. So we have used the method of unfolding to analyze the asymptotic behavior of this problem, and we are able to separate the scale, and we got this fully scale separated limit optimal control problem. So that this limit optimal control problem can be stated as this. So for theta belongs to L2 omega plus, the limit cost functional is given by this, where xi is the solution of the cell problem, and u plus and u minus together satisfy this limit state equation. So this is exactly the limit state equation that we got in the beginning. And the optimal control problem is to find u and theta belongs to h omega and n omega plus such that it satisfies this equality, like j of u bar comma theta bar is equal to infimum of j of u and theta. So because again this problem is elliptic in h omega, and this you can show this is a quadratic cost functional. So we can easily have, by the classical theory of calculus of variation, we have the existence and uniqueness. Now, if we see this adjoint state, so following the same procedure, we can also homogenize this adjoint state also. Now, if we homogenize the adjoint state, it will look like this, and it exactly the adjoint state corresponding to this state equation. So what we have again, using that adjoint state, this one, we can characterize our limit optimal control. Yeah, we can characterize the limit optimal control theta bar by the restriction of v bar plus, like theta bar is equal to minus 1 by beta v bar plus. So we have like homogenize our state equation, adjoint state equation. The adjoint state equation will be again become like adjoint state equation corresponding to the limit state equation. Again, we have like the same like convergence theorem for this kind of for this problem also that I'm not showing here, but we have the same convergence result. Now we apply a control on the insulting part. So for this case, the control state is I epsilon, and yeah, and the cost function is the quadratic cost function, where E epsilon is the state equation which satisfy this variation form, and ud is the desired state, and f belongs to L2 omega. Now the state equation is exactly as it is, but we have extra term corresponding to the control. Again, the optimal control problem is to find E epsilon bar, theta epsilon bar belongs to H1 omega epsilon cross L2 I epsilon, such that J epsilon of E epsilon bar comma theta epsilon bar is equal to infimum of this quantity, this set. So again, because for each epsilon stage, it is a perfectly elliptic problem, and this is a quadratic cost function, so there is no problem in existence and uniqueness. So our aim is to analyze the asymptotic behavior of this optimal control problem, like what will happen to this optimal control problem when you pass to the limit epsilon tends to 0. So again, we're going to use the characterization of the optimal control. So using the same adjoint state, we can characterize our optimal control like this. So this optimal control at each epsilon stage can be given by the restriction of the adjoint state d epsilon bar over the insulating region. Now, if you remember the variational form corresponding to this adjoint state, there is epsilon multiplication over like on the insulating region. So because of the epsilon multiplication, we do not have the full like uniform H1 bound over the epsilon bar. And when you analyze asymptotic behavior, basically this theta epsilon bar limit will be dependent over the microscale y1, and that is why when you apply unfolding, we go up the extended function, extended space omega u, but we are not able to come back fully to the working space omega. So for that case, we got like sort of reduced scale separated system, but not fully. So in this case, the limit cost function is going to look like this. So here u and u1, this u11 is a function of x and y1 both. Okay, and this xi is a cell problem, that is the same cell problem. So this cost function is defined like this, and theta belongs to L2 omega plus, and theta 1 belongs to L2 omega u, that is unfolded domain, but theta 1 is 0 over the conductive part. And the reduced state equation is like the variational form is stated as follows: find u11 belongs to h omega cross v omega, so as I could satisfy this state equation. So it has two parts. So one is for u plus and u minus, and another for u1. So basically this u11 has sort of the contribution coming from the insulating part, and the y1 dependency of this variational form is coming from this u11. Again, we have a adjoint state. If we apply control on the insulating region, in that case the adjoint state will going to look like this, and this is basically the homogeneous form of the adjoint state that we have like corresponding to the epsilon state variational form when you apply control on the insulating region. Now, using this adjoint state, we can characterize our optimal control problems like this, like the full control theta bar plus theta 1 bar can be characterized by this. That is the -1 by beta, 1 minus z, g bar plus v1 bar in omega iu. So basically this control is not, we can have some small like one more separation, but that is not that much helpful. But we have at least this much, like theta bar plus theta 1 bar. So basically theta bar is sort of given by this part, and theta 1 bar is given by this part. So basically we have shown that when epsilon tends to 0, the optimal control problem is going to basically look like this optimal control problem. And the control can be characterized by the same, like this adjoint state. Now in this problem, what we have basically assume the coefficient on the lower part is 1, and on the insulating part is epsilon square. So one can generalize the same thing, like instead of epsilon square, one can take alpha epsilon square, well alpha epsilon tends to 0. And according to the limit k, limit epsilon tends to 0, that's alpha epsilon. According to this k, we're going to have different result. So for k is equal to 0 and k is equal to infinity, the result can be reproduced by just minor modification. And when k belongs to 0 to infinity, so for this case, our case 1. So in that case, if it is not 1, so everything will be same, except in the cell problem, there will be extra k epsilon, like k square factor. That's it. Otherwise, all the things will be same. Yeah. And also, you can reproduce this whole result. Instead of taking Laplacian, one can take divergence elliptic variational form also. These are the references. So this is the one where this modified unfolding operator is defined. And in this paper, basically, we have used more generalized version. Basically, in this paper, where the unfolding operator is defined for the referential, where the referential is given by a graph of a function. But here we are not allowed, it can be any sort of shape, not just a graph. And this is the one where they have introduced homogenization of strong contrasting diffusivity in oscillating domain. And here the two papers where they have like author have studies homogenization with high contrasting diffusivity materials. And I have just presented the work published in this journal. Yeah. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Abu, for a very nice and interesting talk. Are there any questions from audience?
Hi. Yeah, so thank you for this interesting talk. I have a very naive question. So, because it seems your problem is in 2 dimension.
Yeah.
So, I mean, can you increase the dimension? Or?
Yeah. I have the whole result for in dimension. Just for presentation purpose, I just.
Okay.
So all things will be same, everything. So because of 2-dimensional pictorial presentation, I just put it 2 dimension.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? So I have one question, Abu. So in the first problem, what are the boundary conditions you have on the problem?
Yeah. So this boundary is a Neumann zero boundary condition, but basically.
No, just without control when you talk. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, this one, right? So this Neumann zero boundary condition, because we are sort of taking, although I have the picture I have shown, it has like 2 separate parts. It is just for the presentation, but actually what we have inside is a very core core, that is conductive part, and it is surrounded by insulating material. So there is no outward heat flow. So that was I have put Neumann zero boundary condition. Like if you see the.
So how it. Right. So is it, I mean, if you change the boundary condition, say Dirichlet or mixed boundary condition, does it change significantly?
It will affect. Yes.
It will affect. Okay.
Yeah. So next, basically, we are writing another project, like where what you are basically thinking to put, because you have this is the insulating part, this is conductive part. So suppose you have a heat flow, so there should be flow outside, right? So there should be non-homogeneous Neumann boundary condition there. So if you put non-homogeneous Neumann boundary condition, the analysis will be different from this one.
So basically Neumann on the spikes is kind of natural to do.
Dirichlet,
Otherwise.
Yeah. While putting Dirichlet, it will be very difficult, like because each time our domain is varying. So you have to put very restrictive condition on the sequence what you are considering. Like for each epsilon, we are putting G epsilon, right, on the condition. Like for this domain, we are putting condition G epsilon. So you have to put a very strong assumption where it should converge, and like some restrictions so that you have to make sure things are happening very nicely. Otherwise, because we do not have a very fixed domain, right? All the time it is varying. So what will be the condition?
Yeah.
So one idea, like you have known that Ayyappan and Vidhan has worked, right? The harmonic extension things.
Okay.
Yeah. So that way, one possible is there, like putting Dirichlet condition and use the harmonic extension.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from audience? So otherwise, let us thank the speaker again. And we'll take a break and come back after 5 minutes.